So just wanted to, first of all, give you the why behind this is obviously we're moving towards two services. Let me take you back to, was it March or April when congestion was high in the service? It was March, wasn't it? Yeah, it was March. And so we had our weekly staff meeting, and I came into the staff meeting and I said, guys, I feel like God wants us to prepare for two services. And everyone was like, yes, and they were like, no. And the reason being is because what we uncovered was we wanted to have a heart to go after that, but we realized that we had some systems and some processes that we needed to take a good hard look at. And this works up into a certain point, and then I'm sure those of you who obviously understand business structure at times, you can hit where you're doing all of the tasks to do things, and we realized that we couldn't take on any more the way we were currently structured. So enter the process enforcer, Rick Pedersen, and he came in, and I had him look at some of the way we do processes, and between that and some other things from other churches that we were able to borrow, we were able to, I think, come up with something that Pastor Julie and Rick will unpack here that we think will work for our culture. And so part of what you're going to hear today is the how behind the two services, the areas of need, some of the decisions why we're doing that, and then we're going to implement some of these structures in every area, so not just the helps ministry. A lot of what you're going to hear today are going to be in helps ministries, and so what we're asking from you when we go to two services is to think of it this way. If you were to, in a sense, we're planting another church. We're planting another church service. So if we're going to be an apostolic church and eventually plant churches in other regions of this area, it makes sense that our next logical step would be to plant another service. That would be a great first step to do that. And so we're all in agreement on that. What we then had to realize, okay, when are we going to do that? We realized we needed to push the date out to October 1st. We had talked about the summer. There was no way we could do that. And we're glad we didn't do that because we wouldn't have been ready. But we feel like with the meetings that we've had, we've spent a lot of time on these processes, and I'm going to let both of them kind of unpack that part of it. But the idea behind that was that when we go to two services this fall, an example would be this. You go to the 9, maybe you attend the 9 and you serve in the 11. Maybe you do that once a month. We're not asking you to give up every Sunday and serve in one and attend the other. I want to repeat this. I'm not asking you to do that. What I am asking for you to be willing to consider is maybe 1 or 2 Sundays a month where you work in one area, in one service, and attend the next one. Does that make sense at all? Okay. Now, the plan is as we develop our assimilation processes and new people come, we will on-ramp them, and this is what we've been working on, what they're going to unpack. We will on-ramp new people to our family faster than we've ever done before. So here's, how many of you ever signed up for something and 9 years later you're choking? That's never happened. Okay. It happened to me. So what we're saying is this. You may not be called to a particular area, but God may call you for a season to a particular area of need. We're asking you to invest a Sunday or two to attend one and serve another. So your Sunday may be a little longer. Does this make sense to everybody? I mean, nod your head, yes. It's not a requirement, but we're asking you. Okay, did I miss anything else there? Is that good? Okay. So with that said, that was the why behind. We needed to go, and we realized that when it gets really, really crowded in that service, that there's not a lot of space. And so what we're going to do is we'll open up that ballroom back over here. We'll cut the seats in half, obviously, because we're going to initially start with less people per service, and then it'll give us more room, more space in between the chairs. There's a lot of that there. And I did hear, too, that it gives people a chance to attend a service every week, which they didn't have before. So if they worked in kids ministry, they didn't get to go to service. So there's a lot of upside. I realize that puts a demand more on some of your Sundays once or twice a month. But we feel like, based on what we see, what God's doing, the testimonies we're hearing, the fact that you're here, we feel like it's a great next step. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to these amazing two people to do the processes.
Thank you, Pastor Ryan. Like Pastor Ryan had shared, it's really discussing the how today, how we're going to make this happen. He's been, over the last couple of weeks, really focusing on the why. And there's a lot behind that. I mean, the testimonies today, that's the why. What happened last Sunday, that's the why. What happens almost Sunday after Sunday, that's the why. So there's a question that comes with us doing this, and it's called a family meeting. So the first question that we want to pose out there is Elevation Church your family? And it's a serious question, because there's a lot of things that happen when you're in a family. There's a commitment in your family. There's fighting it out when you need to in a family. Like my kids growing up, if they didn't like what happened, if they didn't like my rules and decided to move over to my sister's house, that would be weird. They probably would have loved it. She had a beautiful home. But she was they're in my family. So there are things that happen inside of a family, and there's love that happens in a family, and there's protection that happens in a family. When we started and were originally looking at Elevation Church, it was about, what is God calling us to do? It wasn't like, let's take what we've seen in church and just go do a better job. We knew that we were called to pioneer something different. And it doesn't mean you ignore the past or you regret the past. You take pieces of that with you. And then you also look at, okay, what kind of model is he kind of calling us to? So you'll see we resemble, and we glean a lot from Bethel Church as much as we can, because we know that's the general direction we're going. But we also know that he's calling us still to something else, something beyond. And we don't even really know what it is yet. Because when you walk day by day with Holy Spirit, it's a party happening every day. And he'll say, what about this? And we're like, okay. And it may not always make sense. And sometimes we don't even know the process to put in order to Holy Spirit. You want us to do what? Oh, okay. And sometimes it takes us a bit. And the last 4 years, we've been pioneering. We're like, what are you calling us to? We've been doing it different. And so have some of the processes not been there? No. Because we didn't build the process and then follow it. We said, okay, Holy Spirit, where are you going? And then now we look back and say, okay, we've got a general direction. Now we're getting this. Now what we're going to do is share what that platform looks like, and we're going to kind of catapult off of that. But the heart posture behind it is deciding, is this your family? So you can say, yes, absolutely, I'm in without a doubt, I know it. I know that there are some of you here that feel that way. There are some of you that said, I'm kind of new. I like what's happening so far. Let's see what you have to say. I'll make up my mind. Those of you that said, absolutely not, this is not my family, I'm guessing you're not here. So I think that's pretty safe. But maybe there's some that said, I thought they were, but something's going on right now. I don't know where I'm at. And that's where I'm going to say, then you are family, and let's talk about it. Let's work through it. Because you're going to have those moments from now until Jesus comes back. And family fights it out. Family pushes through. We're going to do the best we can to lay out some plans and say, this is what it's looking like. It might be messy, and we might change it. We don't know. That's what the beautiful thing of a Spirit-filled church is. Now, Holy Spirit's not about disorder. He can actually give us order, and he can give us plans, and we believe that that's what he's given us here. But the goal is to change lives, and we know firsthand that starts with identity. And Pastor Ryan has done nothing but push the identity piece. And that's because if you don't know who we are, we can't continue to go for where we need to go. Tracy was in my office yesterday, and I was talking to her a little bit. I'm sorry, Tracy, I know I didn't tell you I was going to do this. It just kind of came up in my head right now. Because, she speaks so articulate and has so much to say. And I said, man, I can see you doing public speaking. She's like, no. That's not me. And I said, yeah, but deep down somewhere you know it is. And she's like, no, yeah, I do. Yeah, but no. But yeah. I mean, and we all have that. We have that thing that we know we're called to. And usually it's the thing you're probably most afraid of. So what are we doing at Elevation Church? We've created Elevate You, E3, Chicken Lines, discipleship training. Why? Because we want to get you from here to where you're called. Because I always joke about having those Disney references. Do you remember some of you will remember the cartoon Hercules. Hercules had a destiny, and Hades knew it. And dead on, he did everything he could from childhood on to destroy that before he filled his destiny. I know some people that are destined to become public speakers, maybe like Joyce Myers, and maybe you had a third grade teacher that just pummeled you, and you've got this thing. We're going to get through that, and we're going to get you on the other side of it. Because when people hear, don't just say, oh, I think you'd be good at that. We're taught to seek the gold. What is seeking the gold? It's seeing who God created you to be and pulling that out. So when I was talking to Tracy, it's like, you know what? She said, but you know what's cool about being here is I wouldn't have the fear to try. And why is that? Because it's not Julie's idea that she should be a speaker. Because then let's say Tracy got up here and she failed. I'd go, oh, Julie missed it. Sorry, Tracy, guess you aren't quite what I thought you were. But in God's house, we're able to say, Tracy, I know that's you. Now get up there, girl. And no matter if she failed it, I'd say, yep, you're going to do better next time because that's who you're called to be. That's who you are. This is Elevation Church. Is this your family? What it also calls us to do is go from good to great. Pastor Ryan is the best papa. And he always makes sure that our good doesn't get in the way of our great. He says, yeah, you're really good at administrative, but I need you over here. And now it gave Alex the opportunity to step into administrative. And we all get to do that. So not just you, but we get to too. And with that, Pastor Ryan is going to come up and Pastor Hope, and they're going to talk about a step that as pastors as well, we sometimes go from good to great. And then we're going to get into the real nitty-gritty of how this is going to happen with 2 services. So you guys can come on up.
So you want to just go ahead and share what's on your heart? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so when we started Elevation, I, from the beginning, have overseen the kids ministry, and I have learned a lot and have had some really special moments, just special memories. And I just want to say that as we're talking about serving and serving with the 2 services, if God is just kind of percolating on your heart, maybe serving in the kids ministry, you will learn. If you go in with a humble, open, hungry heart, even at the preschool level, I've had preschool teachers tell me, that's just what I needed today. God so spoke to me. And I've learned a lot these past few years. And Ryan and I knew, though, from the beginning that it wasn't going to be a permanent position for me overseeing the kids ministry. And just on the way to church this morning, actually, I was thinking almost 2 years ago, it was Kingdom Culture 2 years ago, and And I was just seeking God, like, okay, God, I'm learning a lot, I'm growing, but kind of who do you have more in a permanent sense for this position? And I felt like he said to me, it's going to be in 2 years and it'll be a man. And this fall, I'm going to be transitioning out, and Pastor Aaron is going to be transitioning in. And I really see that process being completed definitely by January. So I say this to you with just so much genuine excitement in my heart, because Pastor Aaron really carries the heart of Elevation, and he is going to be so amazing with serving and ministering to the leaders in the kids ministry and just imparting the heart of the church into our kids and into our kids' leaders. And I just so desire to say that the kids volunteers right now are absolutely amazing. They are so amazing, and they just deserve someone with the time to pour in more. Amen.
Yeah. So I wanted her to share that because, I mean, let me give you an example. If Ted, you're in my line, you're in my crosshair, so I'm going to use you. If you came to me and you said, Ryan, I've been serving as an usher or a greeter or whatever, and I've just been on that wall, and I just need a break or whatever, I would move heaven and earth to partner with you to say, take a step down. Where is God calling you to next? Your family, I don't want you burning out, but what is God doing there? And then we would cultivate a plan. And I think that needs to happen across the board, that blueprint. If you're here, maybe you need to go from here to there. That's awesome. But here's what we found out between Hope and I. What we found out was she was really good at doing a lot of things, but we got to a point where if she would have kept going, she would be disobeying God. And she needed to come out. And we made the decision, you and I did, for her to step out of that oversight role, not knowing initially who was gonna take that and have oversight. Yep. So then in a staff meeting, Pastor Aaron, he piped up, I'll take it. And we're like, how are you gonna do that with Elevate You and Emerge? And so we went through that whole thing, and what we began to realize was, based on all the systems and the processes that we're working on, the leaders that we want to see rise, it's actually created an opportunity for him to be able to speak into the culture. And we felt, what have I been talking about? If you've been coming to this church for any time, you know how super passionate I am about kids ministry. I want to go after the prophetic in kids ministry. And here's why. One word from the enemy at age 2, 3, 4, or 5, we know the devastation it can cause. People feeling rejected. I mean, how many of you were bullied in school? You understand that concept. Now, let me flip that. What would it be like to have children come in and we have a prophetic army of people stationed in the kids' ministries to undo every week what is done out there? Every week. So what we began to talk about was, oh my gosh, we need to reframe how we view kids ministry. For too long, people look at kids ministry and go, let's put them over there, out of sight, out of mind. Let's not consider them having a junior Holy Spirit. We'll consider they have a junior Holy Spirit, and one day when they grow up, they'll be effective. Mm-hmm. That's how I grew up. That one day I'll slay Goliath, but for now I'll sit and learn. What I'm saying is we're going to create an army of 8-year-old spiritual Jedi, assassins, and you're going to help us. But here's the thing. We need to reframe kids ministry, and this is what we're really after. Think of it this way. You may not be called, none of you in this room may be called to kids ministry. I doubt that. I'm sure many of you are. But even if you're not called to kids ministry, if you want to change culture out there, let it start in here and go and give encouraging prophetic words in the kids' ministry. You're called to prophetic ministry? Good. Practice on kids too, because they matter too. Mm-hmm. So give us a week. Give us 1 week a month. You're not called to kids ministry? No problem. Go back in there with the leaders and give them support, prophetic support in the environment and watch your kids change. So what I'm saying is we'll change culture now and we'll change culture later, but let's start now. They are our lab experiment. Does that make sense at all? A little bit, sort of? It's going to change things. But we have to capture we have to reframe how we identify kids ministry. So that was part of the
Absolutely. And what we teach the kids is the ABCs of prophecy is always, build up, cheer up. And so it is always meant to be built up and edify. And I just want to say too, I just feel led, we have many caregiver positions. So if you just feel like, gosh, I don't know about teaching a lesson or that sort of thing, but I just want to go in and just be present and be of help and listen to Holy Spirit to build up and edify these kids, but not have a lot of responsibility, we need you really badly. So please just be obedient to that.
Amen. The other thing that'll happen is that leaders, because Aaron is taking that on, we realized, oh my gosh, we have to protect his time across the board. So what we're asking then is for other leaders to rise up and help him in other areas of influence. So if you're in Elevate U, rise. If you're in kids ministry, rise. Take it. We'll equip you to do it. We're creating training mechanisms that they'll get into in just a second to do all that. So this is what we've been talking about for months. And I know Aaron is in Tomahawk right now. We have that video. He taped a video before we left, and I want to play that right now.
Good morning, or maybe afternoon, Elevation Church. As I'm sure Pastor Hope just beautifully laid out, there's a shift happening in the way that we do our youth ministry here. And I'm a big part of that shift. I'm stepping into a role this fall that we're tentatively calling the Family Life Pastor at Elevation Church. And that means that I'm going to have oversight and the task of developing a continuum of culture from our nursery kids all the way through Emerge. This is exciting for me. This is a prophetic call. This is the culmination of a lot of words that have been spoken over Callie and I, and to step into it's a big deal. Years ago when we were doing ministry, I had the opportunity to speak with a young man who was a believer, was raised in a Christian household, and I asked him this question, I think led by the Holy Spirit. I said, "Why are you a Christian? What led you to make a decision for Christ?" And his response was really telling. He said, "I looked at all the available options, and Christianity was the one that made the most sense to me." I still have a little bit of contact with that young man today, and now he's far from God, and he's an atheist, self-declared. He knew God, but he had not encountered God. So when my heart is drawn into youth ministry, and when my heart is drawn into our children's area, we use the phrase in church all the time, we owe the world an encounter with God. We owe our youth an encounter with God. We're not just teaching stories. We're not just teaching them good moral principles. What we are doing as a culture is bringing them into an encounter with God. They will leave this place having encountered him, having grown in their prophetic gifts, having prayed for the sick and seen them healed. This is what we want to give our youth. This is what we want to build and bolster and grow in a fresh new way in our youth culture. And I'm so excited to get to spearhead that. So if that's something that burns on you, we need volunteers. We need people to step in. But more than that, I need people that are called to the truth that our nursery children are interceding in their prayer life, that in their dream life, they're interceding and growing with him, walking with him. I need people that are willing to take a prophetic word from a 4-year-old seriously. I need people that believe with every shred inside of them that our kids can lay hands on the sick and see them well. We need to see this culture grow because an encounter with God, a true encounter with the power of God, with his heart, with who he is the difference between kids that go off to college and never give another thought to Jesus and kids that change the world. Help me equip our children to change the world. Bless you guys.
I love that. And when we talk about, taking direction from other places and looking at the Bethel layout. Bill Johnson says when they get into a bind in their staff meeting, they go into the children's area, and they always walk out with their answer. They get their answer. I shared this Friday night in our group. We had a worship team meeting as well, but we really focused on the worship part of that. We're really trying to dial that in as well. Worship is important in that area, not to get them to, just watch a video, but really learn to encounter God. We look at that in our nursery and in our pre-K, and we're working on things in Heaven's Heroes, trying to get them to soak, really listen for Him. One other quick thing is I had listened to a Bethel video about the person who was in charge of the nursery there, and she said one Sunday, all of the babies at once started to cry, like at once. It wasn't a startle, didn't happen, it wasn't one started, and they all started crying. And they have a head of their intercessory prayer group, and they kind of dialed the 411 number to have her come in. And she came into the room, and she's like, they just all started crying. And so she kind of took the pulse of the room, and she said, okay, she said, are you okay to let them cry? And the nursery leader, she's like, yeah, okay. She said, they're interceding for the main sanctuary. That's how I felt when I saw that. I had goosebumps for like 4 days. Like, come on. So it's when I talk about things like that, it's not like we're going to try to be that. But if that's a landmark here, I surely want to get at least to that part and keep moving. So doesn't that make perfect sense when we have our head apostolic, prophetic pastor take over that area, if that's an area that we want to grow in our church? So always moving, always shaking here, and I'm excited about that. We're going to get started. If we can call up that first PowerPoint slide. It says visitor and family walkthrough on top. There's one more after that. We kind of went through that part. There we go. I'm going to touch on these really quickly. This is kind of the walkthrough. This is how we started. It's like, okay, if we are going to make sure that we don't lose another person that God sends to us, at least we're going to make every intention that if they're supposed to be here, that they're going to be here. And it really starts out in the parking lot. So can you guys read those? Okay. The top one, I was kind of afraid of that. I tried to make them pretty big. But the top one is, it starts out in that top box up on the left, is the parking lot, bathrooms, sanctuary prep. All of those things matter. And I think we got into a little bit of a rut in the sense that this wasn't our building. And I have to admit there actually probably was some frustration, and we can come in and we can say, oh, this wasn't done and that wasn't done. And I'm sure maybe if you're visiting, you can see it too, like, oh, maybe this wasn't done or that wasn't done. And we thought, well, how can we honor this though? And it's kind of like that Girl Scout, Boy Scout thing. Let's just make it better because we're here. Let's just make it better. So if God's going to give us this, then we're going to take care of it, because then we're going to get our building, right? So it's almost like planting seeds. So we've decided we still want to make this place look and feel like if it were our home. So we're going to start taking a little bit more attention from the parking lot to the bathrooms. We're going to take a little bit of ownership, and I'll go through that a little bit more. I don't want to spend too much time on each block quite yet. The next one is setting up the sanctuary. That's a crew that comes in and sets up everything that you see here. Right past that, we're going to go into back from the visitors coming through that front door. They're going to hit a greeter, like our entranceway. So we're going to look at greeters there, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. And I'm giving you these little pieces, and then we're going to come back and dig down a little deeper. Past that, they're going to come into the welcome table. So if you take it all the way, if you were a visitor and you're just walking in, we're going to touch on every point. And what that is opportunity for us to love on people. If we want them to feel like family, you know what it's like when you walk in and nobody says hi to you if you're at a family function? It's like, it's weird, right? It's weird. It should be weird to us, because everybody that walks in, we should think they're family. Even if they're not, we don't think they're family yet, they're going to be their family. So we've got our welcome table. We're going to talk about that. We have the lounge that we're lovingly calling it. That's our treats and our coffee area. Then you're going to go down again. The next row starting on the left is Then you actually enter the service, and we have these amazing ushers and people that are here. Another a loving point. Again, I'll continue to go through that. They experience the worship, that's our next box. They experience the announcements and the videos that we have. Pastor Ryan, or whatever pastor is up at that moment, delivers a message. Our whole service layout, obviously Holy Spirit's kind of in charge of that. Then we have our prayer and our altar ministry that happens, and then there's a tear down function at the end of that. So that's kind of the gist of what we're going to cover. There's a lot of other things that we're going to touch on soon, but that's kind of our phase one in preparation for 2 services. We have other things, and I'm going to touch on that a little bit briefly too later, but this is going to be the gist of what we're going to focus on to get 2 services off the ground. This is where it's hands-on and really making this happen for the 2 services. Is there anything that you want to fill in? Rick is my security blanket. A big, cuddly, soft security blanket.
Yeah. I asked if I could be eye candy, but they turned me down, so.
Obviously, we didn't turn you down. So he's here to actually fill in the blanks and kind of help as I go through.
Yes.
It was cool when we started looking at this past weekend. Josh came into my office, Pastor Josh, and he said, we're talking family meeting. He said, it reminds me of growing up. And he says, when stuff had to get done, Mom and Dad would call a meeting. And it's like everybody had a job, and they were the family chores. Here's the family, he said, and now everybody can do something. Really, if you want to go to the next slide, we're going to break this down and I want you to have Holy Spirit tell you, what is God calling me to do? Because everybody in the family can do something, right? I mean, you can have a 5-year-old bag up garbage in your household, right? They can put towels away. They can help fold things. Everybody can do something. The only one that is not required to do anything is the baby. And then it's everybody else's job to help take care of the baby. Now, I'm not insinuating if you're not currently doing something that you're a baby. What I'm saying is some people are going to come in hurt, and some people are going to need some attention. And there's going to be people in place to do that too. But once you get on that healthy track, then everybody gets hands-on. Everybody can do something. Does that make sense? Are you all still with me? Okay. There's coffee in the lobby if you need it. Are you doing good? Okay. All right. The first section, bringing out that is the parking lot, bathrooms, sanctuary. And what we're going to be looking at is called a prep crew. These are the people that really are going to be the owners. They're going to own the church. They're going to say, what would I want this to look like if this is our very own business? They're going to check the parking lot for weeds, bottles, ice, things left over from the wedding the night before. Obviously, if it's in the summer, you won't find ice, but you might in the winter. Checking the bathrooms, and then redoing that again right after first service to make sure it's great for second service. Make sense? Okay. I'm going to do this kind of quickly so it doesn't continue to bore you. And the reason I'm bringing these up, though, is we're going to have sign-up sheets in the back. So you just kind of have this, be mindful of these little areas and say, okay, I remember her talking about that. The second one is setting up the sanctuary. Pastor Josh would shout out a big amen if everybody just signed up for that. You have to be an early riser. Early riser, you come in early. We unpack all the equipment. We have a small footprint in the back of this sanctuary here that the Meadows graciously lets us keep there, which is great. That's unpacking the equipment. It's setting up the stage, setting up the the soundboards, the cameras. All of that stuff has to be set up. That's our setup crew. The next one is our greeters and runners. Now we're going to put an extra job, or I should say an extra person in that entranceway. Right now we have probably the most amazing greeters that I've ever seen. I can't wait to see them, and I usually don't get to, but today I actually had to run outside to go get something, and then they still greet me when I come in. They always say, welcome to Elevation. So I love them. They always have a smile, and you just feel the love when you walk in. Pastor Rick did a walkthrough a while back, trying to with visitor eyes. And so what we've decided is after those two greeters, we're going to have a person standing there as well that's kind of, we're going to call them a runner for right now. That's going to be somebody with a really pastoral mindset. It's going to kind of glance and be the one, because these people are greeting and then they get past them, right? And we want them to still continue and greet people forward. But we want someone to catch them. We want someone to catch and say, hey, you look new here. Have I seen you before? It's going to be before they get into the rest of the process. Yep, it's my first time. Great, let me help you to the welcome table. You can get a welcome packet right here. They're going to kind of hand deliver and hand walk these people through. So that person right there is really going to have that heart to make sure that these precious people walking in are taken care of. Maybe they're coming in and they have a wheelchair. That runner's going to take them right into the sanctuary. Is there something else I can get you? They're going to deliver them to our amazing ushers. And then they're going to hand them off and make sure that they're not getting lost and trying to find their way on their own. Or maybe it's a mom that comes in and she's got her arms full. Let's help her out. She doesn't have to be a visitor. If she's our family, even more so, help her out. Help her get to where she needs to go. Okay? It's one of my favorite spots there. Okay, next one, the welcome table. We're changing this up. We're changing the look of it. We're going to change the functionality of it. As you've noticed a few months back, we moved the coffee and treats from that center and we moved it in the back. What was happening is when visitors would come in, we are such a fun-loving group of people that all they saw was this mass wall of people, and they were talking and they were loving each other and engaged, and they had no idea where to go. Like, where's the service at? How do you get from here to there in this sea of wonderfulness? They loved what was happening, but they were trying to maneuver and get through it. So we've moved that a little bit further back, and we're going to open up that line of vision for them to come through and hit those areas. We're going to have a few different things. We're going to have, at the same welcome table, we're going to have a spot that says new here, one that says get connected. We're going to have our engage humanity, and then we're also going to have our eKids check-in. We have some awesome things that are coming with each of those areas. The new here section will have pre-made welcome packets. So that welcome team is really just there to make them feel amazing and happy that they're there, and hand them a welcome packet, talk to them, and all of that welcome packet will have all the needed information inside of it. The Get Connected, we're going to have a laptop right there to get people plugged in. So we don't have to hand the eConnect cards in with the scribbling of what your email address is, and then us trying to figure out what that email address is, and then you not getting emails and you not getting anything because we obviously put it in wrong. This will stop that right away. They're going to come in and they're going to get right connected. We're going to have the Engage Humanity. We're going to actually have a board. On the board, we'll say what the needs are. So if you walk in, you're going to see right up on the board, I need a couch. I need a new car.
A new car.
A new car, whatever it might be. We're going to have that up there on the board. That way, when you're walking by, you're going to go, oh my gosh, I have a couch. Because right now, that's all kind of hidden within the trifold. And we want that all up on the board so when people come in, they can see it's being put right up there. The eKids check-in will also have, it's all going to be with a printer now, and it's all computerized. We have all of your kids' names in the computer. It's going to spit out little printed out tickets. We're going to hand those out to you, so it's computerizing everything. So it's going to be pretty cool. All right, anything that you want to add yet?
Nope.
Okay. The lounge, we can call this whatever we want, but we really want to make that coffee and treats area just because you guys, this is who we are, right? We just love coffee. We love hanging out and treats. So we want to even enhance that more. There was something that happened when I'd go to my mom's house. She would just continually try to feed you the whole time. Are you sure you don't want something to eat? I could make you an egg. I can make you some potatoes. You know what I mean? It was whatever. But mamas want to feed people that walk in, right? At least that's like how we grew up. If you came over, my mom was going to feed you something. And there's something about the heart of it when you're feeding and showing that hospitality. So it's really a vital area. It's not just treats, but it's creating that atmosphere of fellowship. So treat builders, treat bakers, beware. just lost my spot. iPads are great. Ushers and greeters. I mean, we're all aware of how amazing the group is that we have under the leadership of Don and Kathy. That's our whole thing with DNA is we want to duplicate people. We want to duplicate, first of all, Jesus, and we want to duplicate our leaders and then duplicate their leaders, just continue to have those touch points. The ushers and greeters, as we know, help people feel welcome as they come in, assisting them with seating. They're also going to be doing the offering, the communion, counting of the offerings and things like that. The next one is our worship. Obviously, we have our vocalists, our musicians. That includes our sound crew, the camera crew, lights, lyrics. That's all an area that you could be involved in. We'll move on to the next one is the announcement videos. And what I'm talking about is what's happening during the service. We have all of our computer people back here, tech people, running the camera. We have Facebook Live. So these are all areas that you can get plugged in at. So maybe you're not the one that wants to be greeting people and out front. You're more that behind the scenes, or you're really techie. I'm going to pick on Tracy again. She's like, I nerd out when I get to do lyrics. And I'm like, I love that. And that's just a small thing of putting somebody in the spot that they just love doing. And she is so good at it. And I can't tell you what a comfort. No, it's huge. And it's huge for us too, because we follow on the back. And, I've got all these other things and Holy Spirit talking in my ear. And I just kind of glance up. And when those aren't there, it's like, I kind of lose. So I always have this great peace when our awesome people are back there and they're taking care of us. So all of it's huge. All of it matters. Tear down. Pastor Josh is woohoo. This is going to be so big because currently, when we first started almost 5 years ago, primarily it was the worship team that would come in, set up, go through the music, and then do the music for the service, and then tear everything down. Now, we have been blessed with some really amazing people that have been doing a lot of the setup and tear down for us right now. And I love you, I love you, I love you. I can't say that enough. But what's going to happen with 2 services is hopefully we're going to let our worship team leave after the second service. Obviously we're going to let them leave after second service. After the worship part of second service. So like if they, because they're going to already be here from 7 in the morning until about 11:30. And that's going to be going through the music, then doing both services, and then letting them go home at about 11:30. Yeah, because our worship will start at 11. We'll do about a half an hour. So what this is going to do is leave a pretty big void then for all of that tear down. Because usually part of the worship team volunteers here and there, not the whole team anymore, but pieces of them help tear down. So I can't express enough how vital of a spot this is. And that group, even in itself, has really bonded. They're talented and they're learning the job. And maybe you're like, I don't really know about equipment. You can come up and you can take the microphone stands down. You can unfold the cords. It's easy. We can teach you how to do it. That's it really in a nutshell. What time are we at? Because I'm trying to just be mindful here. Oh, it's 1:09. Not too bad, not too bad. There's one more after this, Tracy. It says youth ministries. This is another section, obviously, that Hope touched on that's happening during our service is all of our eKids ministry, our children's ministry. There's the nursery, there's the pre-K and the K through 5. And the emphasis, as she had said so great, is maybe you're thinking, well, kids aren't really my thing. I don't know how to do that type of thing. But these are the things that we're focused on. The prophetic, prayer, encountering his presence, worship, teaching. Those are all different elements that maybe there's a part of it that you can bring. Maybe there's a part of it that you can support. We have to get off, as they said, the mindset of thinking this is just a daycare area. This is our future. These are the people that are going to, they're going to catapult our ceiling. They're going to jump off of that. That's going to be their foundation, and it's going to be amazing. So it's really vital in that area. The other areas that are outside, like during the Monday through Friday, we have obviously our Emerge the 6th through 12th grade, and it's the same layout. Maybe you're good at sound and want to really start experimenting with that. We're going to really try to enhance our sound through the Emerge over at Life Skills. You could be a leader over an Emerge, or maybe you're just really good at creating fun atmosphere. Let's create a fun atmosphere for our teens over there. You know, that's another spot of ownership for a building until we get a building. Anything yet?
Nope, nothing yet.
Okay. Let's see, the other areas during the week, there's one more graphic, and this is another area that we're going to have signups for that are opportunities for you to be plugged in on. We have our creative arts section. That's under Pastor Josh's leadership, and maybe you're good at graphics. You love to do video production. You can work the camera. That could be either on Sunday. There's other work and creation of videos that's involved during the week. Doing our amazing announcements. We've got some rock stars. We've got some rock stars that really do an amazing job writing them, producing them, acting them out. We got a talented crew. There's in the blue section there, it's the administrative, kind of the Monday through Friday. Maybe you have an hour or two during the week that you can give us. That might be doing some, additional administrative. Maybe you can run errands. There's cleaning. Maybe you're just a great organizer. There's so much that can be done behind the scenes, and then what that does is free up people to do other things out of their good into their great. So every piece helps. In the gray box down on the left, we have the events. Again, we're always looking at graphics, video production, camera recording. That's actually a complete error. I just read those out loud and I didn't change that now that I read it. That's from the one above. Did you see how I copy and pasted? I'm so glad we're family. The events actually would be a little bit more like coordinating the event, shopping for, decorating, things like that. It wouldn't be graphics and video production. I tell you what, by yesterday afternoon, my brain was kind of squishy, so that's what it looked like. Anyway, events. You get events. This is an event. Ordering pizza, coordinating, making sure everybody knows where to go. All of those things take time and creativity and a mind that can think that way. Okay, the last one I think I have on there, we're really looking at a new position of a volunteer coordinator. And oh my goodness, if God's calling you to this, please come and see me right away, because this is going to really be a vital piece. This person will be very present on Sunday, and it's going to be the place that all of our volunteers check into, for one. We're going to be able to start monitoring all of our volunteers who are checking, and I'm going to be able to say, oh my goodness, that Clarice Rollins, she is 52 weeks. She has not missed a Sunday of serving people. And it's really because we don't want to lose people. Yeah, we can, because that's probably the truth about it. We love Clarice. We love so many people. We have so many amazing volunteers. She was in my line of sight. So, but we want to keep our pulse on our family. We want to make sure that we know where they're at and what's going on, and we don't want to lose sight of that. It's also a place, a person that's going to be helping organize and communicate. We have people walking around going, oh my gosh, I've got to get this to Pastor Ryan. Or, oh, I've got to get this key back to Pastor Julie. Oh, I've got to talk to Josh about... This is going to be a place where you're going to be able to drop all of that off with a volunteer coordinator, and then that one spot, she or he is going to make sure that we get that. We're going to have a bin, and all of that's going to go back to the office on Monday morning. So this is going to be a really organized, amazing person. I'm prophesying. And if that's you, please come and see us. Actually, I don't even know if there's a sign up for that in particular. Okay, anything on that, Pastor Rick?
No, the only other one I want to add to all this is we just went through a lot of structure and process. And the reason for that was to be able to operate with excellence. But we also want you to understand is that we're not allowing process to dictate culture. The reason we're doing all of these steps is so that we can produce the culture and execute the culture, live in the culture that we all are part of and why we're here. So I just want to make sure that everyone understands we're not going to allow all these steps here to dictate and change what we do. This is how we're going to deliver our culture and live it to the best of our ability. The other one I want to just say is that if you remember when I gave the sermon on your quest, I want to encourage you, because how I got to be the apostolic teacher was not because I was in a teaching opportunity all the time. If you remember that story, I was washing oatmeal pans for a while. And that allowed me to meet someone that allowed me then to get to that, became one of my phenomenal spiritual mentors that's world recognized. That, you know, how would I think of that? So what I'm encouraging you is, don't look at it, these are tasks that have to be performed. Think of them more as, if I put myself in those opportunities, what is God going to allow happen to me as part of that quest? And so it's again, what we're setting this up is you don't have to serve in it and sign up for a year. Everyone has a short period of time so you can then have that influence placed upon you. But more importantly is when you're in those areas, what's going to happen is you're going to have an impartation of the people that have those gifts and anointings placed on you, and that's part of your quest, because your quest is about learning. It's about refining yourself to finally get to where you are.
That's so good. I'm glad you said that. We have a society out there that's, I heard something the other day by Chris Vallotton, and he was talking about, you know, during the time of war, there was a lot of absentee fathers. And he said, and it left a void in the homes, but there was at least the kids knew my dad's out there doing something, and my dad's fighting, and there was a little bit of a sense of pride. And right now, we have even a higher level of absentee fathers in our society. But the mindset of the kids that are in the homes is way different. It's not, my dad's off to war. It's like, I don't know who my dad is. And this is so contrary to the heart of our Father. And the heart behind this is when they come in, recreating family is showing them this is how family is supposed to be. Like, baby, I'm sorry that's not what you experience at home, but this is going to be your family. You're going to learn about love here. You're going to learn about who you are here. You're going to learn that you have a calling on your life. So it's all about putting those things in place. And then, like the next slide I have, it's to be mindful of the one that needs us, the one that's going to be touched just because somebody smiled at them or because they got a cookie. Maybe some kids are just excited to come and have a cookie every Sunday. I don't know. We don't know. We don't know what touches the heart of people. But I want to make sure that we don't lose the people that God sends to us, that we love them well. The steps that we have in place, there's a slide after this one, another one. There we go. I'm sorry if you can't read it. I'm so sorry. But it's how do we get them from now that they've gone through the service. And this is going to be kind of our phase 2. We're not going to go into all the detail, but I want to let you know there's a plan in place. The first step is really, we're going to be revamping the DNA a little bit. That's going to be their first process of getting them from just being here to actually getting them plugged in. And it's going to be teaching them. We're going to refurbish it a little bit, make it a little bit easier to go through. And we're hoping to offer this every week. We'll do like a DNA 1 and then a DNA 2, a DNA 1. Now we're still pounding some of that up, but we want to be able to quickly get people integrated. The second one is supernatural training. And it's going to be helping them to be a supernatural leader, a supernatural volunteer. We're going to get everybody on the same page before we kind of cut them loose. So we're going to have a program for that. Then we're going to put them through a one-on-one, and we were kind of in the background calling it the matchmaker. When I bring people on my worship team, I sit down with them and say, tell me what you want to become. Tell me what you want to do. I have some people that say, I want to be the best worship leader there ever was. Well, all right then. Let's start making steps to make that happen. And when you allow the team here to know that they see the gold in you, and we're just going to help you pastor through that. Some things you may be able to step right in. You know, when a 7-year-old of the family says, I want to drive the car, well, let's work towards that. You know, but Papa gets to say, you know, we have a little bit to work with here. Don't want to discourage you, son. But let's get you some lessons first, and you grow about 3 feet. And, you know, so it's kind of the same. Like, we're going to match your calling. It doesn't mean, like, you know, or somebody's, I want to be, they know that they're going to be a great dad. We have a lot of dads in this house. We have a lot of moms. There is a reason that all of you great leaders are in one spot. I believe there's a flood coming. Now, one thing cool, not all the ones growing can do all the jobs, but all the fathers and all the mothers can. So we can't be above, like, you know, Dad can still take out the garbage. Yes, Junior can. So can Dad. So sometimes we have to just take on the load. So we all have to look at the jobs and say, you know what, if there's a need there, yep. Dad never lets that go by. He doesn't say, I'm the dad. You do it. Well, maybe sometimes they do. But for the most part, if the job has to get done, Dad steps in, Mom steps in. You know, we get it done. So the one-on-one is really having this is going to be another area where we're going to do some pastoral training. We know a lot of you are called to that capacity. This is going to be an area where one of our pastors in training are going to take these roles on. They're going to meet with the people one-on-one, really feel out their heart. Well, what do you want to do? Really? Okay, well, let's get you set up. Then they're going to try to find those spots. They're going to know what's available. They're going to know who has openings in their team, and we're going to start plugging them in. And it's going to be really on purpose. Then what they'll do is then send those people to that exact leader. So if somebody wants to be on the worship team, then whoever is our one-on-one or our matchmaker is going to send me those volunteers. And then I'm going to have 1 week to get back to them and connect. It doesn't mean I'll meet with them in that week, but it means that I'm going to connect with them and say, okay, now let's set up a meeting and let's get a conversation. So we're working hard at creating that so we don't lose the one. Then that will basically kind of recircle. Let's say they bring him to me and I'm like, I know their heart was, but boy, they just can't sing at all. Or, you know, and sometimes though that doesn't even totally disqualify you. It doesn't. Man, if you've got a heart to worship, that doesn't always matter. But let's say it's just not a fit or whatever the reason might be, then we're going to send them back in through to that matchmaker and make sure that they just don't fall and just don't get involved somewhere. Okay. One more slide, and then we are, oh man, we're at 123. I'm just going to show you this last one real quick. And this is going to be kind of our layout, mainly to continue to develop people and to grow them. So you can see on the far right are your volunteers. The far left is, in every department, there's a pastoral head, somebody that oversees the department. But then they're going to have like leaders, team leaders, that are going to really take the blunt of all of that. For example, like our usher team, the team leaders of that right now are Don and Kathy Jossart. And then what we're going to do is underneath them, they're going to start developing captains. And then beneath that is going to be assistant captains. There's a reason for this. It's just really dispersing, first of all, the workload. But it's the more and more people that we get. What we want to do is make sure that we have a pulse on everybody. So for example, if we have 3 or 4, 5 volunteers, we're going to make sure there's an assistant captain that's really aware of that group. So then you look at the captains. Well, now they may have 4 or 5 assistant captains. They're going to be able to keep an eye on that group. The team leaders are going to have those captains to look down. So now the team leaders can keep their eye on the captains. And now what it does is it brings it back to that pastoral piece, is now instead of me making sure I'm really aware of all the 35 people that are on our worship and creative arts team, if I even touched them each once a week, just think of, that's just a small bit. But if, let's say I have my team leaders and that's who I'm really pouring into, and then those team leaders turn and then they're pouring into, we want to make sure that everybody's got a pulse on everybody in the church. And one thing that God was showing me as I created this, if you would turn this up on the side to where the pastoral thing was on top, and I don't want it to be like a hierarchy, but he showed me that that's like the oil, the anointing oil. And if you can see that, it would actually create little connecting points for the oil to flow down. And we want to make sure that everybody is getting touched with that. And we're looking at broadening perhaps even our staff meeting, where some of these team leaders will actually be a part of that, because we want to make sure they're getting a heavier dose and then turning and creating that culture and pouring out. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay. So our next thing is the questions and answers. I know we're running really short on time, so Pastor Ron, I'm not sure how big of a window that we want to keep, because we want to be mindful that we told you it was going to go until 1:30. You know, our church service, that's just how we flow, and we won't really apologize for that, but we do respect you at the same time. We do have signups that we really want to make sure. Is that all set? Alex, where's Alex? Is it all set up, ready to go? So how would you like to do that now, Pastor Ryan?
Yeah, we could probably, if you need to go, I mean, by all means, do go. We are going to have the signups back there, right?
They're all on the back table, and they've got 7 minutes.
Okay, so we know some of you are super committed. You're already in these areas too. We are asking, correct me if I'm wrong, but we still would like them to, even if they know they're there, they've been there for a year, or two or whatever, and they want to continue doing that. You still want them to drive.
That would be great.
Okay, so maybe on your way, just on your way out, sign, where you're at or where you know you're going to be. One other thing that I think is important to know is that, this why that we're talking about here, it all works together as a team. And I've heard that stat, 20% of the people do 80% of the work. I think most of y'all have heard that. Would you help me destroy that stat? I mean, honestly. And, a lot of times, our commitment is this. We want to have touch points where, since I personally can't visit every one of your homes, and I would love to, I honestly would. But since I can't do that, the only thing I can do is pour in what I feel God is doing inside of me, whatever's going on there, and pass it on to someone else and ask them to do the same. And then that has a reciprocal effect. And I feel like when she's talking about the oil, that's exactly, if we go after this, God will bring in new people. We will on-ramp them so fast. I want you to capture this, that you may be doing a task for 3 months with maybe Dawn and Kathy in your area. And then all of a sudden, they connect with someone in kids ministry, and you know what? I don't want to go here. I want to go over there. Listen, go wherever the oil is flowing in your personal life. But I'm telling you, if you do, the promotion that comes with that spiritually, I can tell you, I've served in the kids. 15 years ago, I was working in the kids ministry, changing diapers for 1.5-year-olds. I worked in youth ministry. I did evangelism out in the streets, sub-zero temperatures in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I did all kinds of stuff, never knowing I was going to pastor one day. My spiritual promotion came by just saying yes to whatever God. And I think there's a spiritual promotion for all of you. And the fact that you're here, I know there's many great people who couldn't be here today, but that tells me that you're hungry. You really want this. And so I'm asking you to seriously consider holding up that wall until we have others join our family to build that wall. Does that make sense at all? Okay. I know we've been saying, does that make sense at all? But there's a lot of pieces to this. We've had hours of plotting, planning, Rick even doing scheming, but we really do. We have a 6-month plan. We have an action plan that we're literally following that we know is straight from God. We can't possibly implement all of it today and tell you your mind would, it's too much. But we have a 6-month plan for the end of the year. We have 3 points that we're going after really for the next 12 months. They're all going to come in phases. I'm going to ask you to just trust God. So That's pretty much it for me. I want to do some questions if we need to. Do we need to dismiss them though now and then?
Yep, what we're going to do is two things. First of all, when you do go back there to sign up for more than one. We're looking at maybe 2 or 3 areas. Even if you want to put a 1, 2, or 3 by it, say this is what I would love to do, at least then we're going to do our best to fill you into that spot. But that way, if that gets filled up, like if everybody wants to do tear down with Josh, we may have some extra people, and then we're going to need another option of where we want to set you up. Josh is like, yes. Also wanted to let you know, back on the table, there are all the signups, and then next to that are baggies of leftover food. There's baggies of pizza and all of the veggies and things like that, so feel free to grab those on your way out. One thing though, Shelley came up, and this is part of our question and answer, and she said, if you're going to volunteer, does that mean you're volunteering for both services? No. It's going to be broke down dependent on what the position is. But what we're going to do, this is simply saying that I would be willing to help in this capacity. We will still meet with you one-on-one. We will talk with you one-on-one. We will make sure that this works for your schedule on the days. You're not just going to be thrown into something and expected to show up. We will be talking to you, and we'll get the detail of when you can serve, if it's once a month, if it's, 4 times a month in a service. So are there any other questions? Because that was a great question, and I'm glad that she came up here to ask me. But we want to open it up. If you have any other questions right now, feel free to let us know. We do have a mic, or you can come up here, whatever you want to do. Any other questions?
While
You
you're
thinking about
formulating
it?
those questions, I'm just curious, how many of you, this is just an impromptu survey, doesn't mean anything, I know a lot of people are here. How many of you would be more inclined to actually attend, meaning you would make the 9 a.m. service the one that you would most likely attend? Raise your hand if you're a 9 o'clocker. I mean, again, you're not committing to this long term, you're just saying, that's the one I would probably attend the most. Okay. Can you raise them a little higher? I just want to see. Okay. All right, hands down. How many of you would be 11 o'clockers that you would attend the most likely? Okay. A lot less. Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know.
Still quite a few, though. That's good.
And did you have any other thing on that? I just wanted an impromptu thing. Any questions? We have a lot of processes that we didn't get to just for time's sake, but each department leader, each team leader, we actually have how many, like 50 some odd job descriptions already? We didn't print those out today, but when you sign up, what'll happen is, this is area 1, 2, 3. You'll be able to be in contact with that team leader, and they will literally get you a job description. Many of them are 3 months, serving 1 to 2 times a month. Some of them are 6 months, depending on the level of commitment and the training. But every department and every team leader will be trained. And I think that's the key thing we want to say is, we're going to take the time to train and prepare for 2 services. Go ahead. Rick, do you? Okay.
Yeah, and if there are not final questions, we can start with really owning things, because when we leave here, the Meadows, actually all garbage has to be picked up, all little things have to be picked up, and that's usually something that a handful of us go through and we scan after every service and we make sure it's all done. If you guys could just clean up your table would be helpful. And if there's anybody that could give us any extra time, I know it's late, I know it's after 1:30, but just helping tear down, we have to tear all of this down yet. And any extra help would be appreciated completely. We love you. We hope you just have a super blessed week. Yes, sir, did you
Anything else? Oh, okay. Thank you again for coming. I know some of you, the pizza, all that is on the house. If, though, you do wanted to, for whatever reason, sew into that, that's fine. Don and Kathy, where are you? Oh, okay. They'll have a little bucket there, but don't feel like you have to. But if you want to, some of you I know might, they'll be back there. Thank you, guys. Thanks for all you do.